Welcome again to Big League Soccer. Today we split the action between the first division of the Barclays League and the second round of the Littlewoods Cup. It's Chelsea against Newcastle for our league game, with the Stamford Bridge ground a picture on a day of lovely autumnal sunshine in West London, and indeed Chelsea's form in the first division so far this season matching this sort of weather. And in the Littlewoods Cup, moments of frantic action as second division Blackburn Rovers seek to keep mighty Liverpool at bay.
Easy from Miller's cross. Judgment from Mail, that's Beardsley, and Geno claws it out and away from Woolwich, who then push Sully down, and it's a free kick to Blackburn.
And then there's your letters, and among them today, whatever happened to the former Everton star Bob Latchford? We see a hat-trick by him. And still on Merseyside, John Aldridge, the man Liverpool bought to replace Ian Rush, carrying on where Rush left off. But first, Chelsea against Newcastle United, and I saw this corresponding game at about this time last year. Newcastle won it. Chelsea were then a beleaguered club. Indeed, there was a sit-down strike demanding the sacking of their manager John Hollins after the game, and Newcastle left for home in high spirits. But a year later, all that's changed. John Hollins survived and has now taken his Chelsea club to third in the league after a really bright start to the season. And poor old Willie McFall of Newcastle United, well, he's a man now on the edge of a precipice, as Newcastle arrived just 7 from the bottom of the table. So a match with a lot of meaning to it then, and our commentator at Stamford Bridge, Martin Tyler.
Mickey Bodley, 20 years old, is the latest graduate to Chelsea's first team, and in his 3 appearances at centre-back, they've not conceded a goal. John Hollins is understandably named an unchanged side after a 3-0 win at Watford last Saturday. Wicks, Bumstead and Pates are still on the casualty list, but newcomers Tony Dorigo from Aston Villa and Clive Wilson from Manchester City have settled in well, and both strikers, Kerry Dixon and Gordon Durie, are among the goals. Newcastle checked this morning on the fitness of right-back John Anderson before naming this side. Gary Kelly stays in goal, even though Martin Thomas is fit again. Mirandinha was only one of 3 summer signings. Another, Glyn Hodges, was sold to Watford this week. A third, John Cornwell from Leyton Orient, has Hodges' place in midfield. Well, these days the captain has to report with the manager to the referee's room 45 minutes before kick-off. And Glenn Roeder, together with Willie McFall, had to sprint in from the King's Road to meet that deadline, with a Newcastle bus caught up in traffic around the ground. There are 2 Keith Coopers on the referees list this season. This is the senior of the 2. He comes from Pontypridd in South Wales. Home is very much where the heart is for Chelsea so far this season. They've played 4 on this ground and won all 4. And Newcastle United come here in deep problems, really, after a start that's obviously been blighted by the loss of Peter Beardsley and even the arrival of Mirandinha, who's got 3 goals in his last 3 games, incidentally. Hasn't been able to really lift the club as they would like. Gordon Durie making the running for Chelsea, and then the ball deflecting off Nevin. But Gordon Durie has scored 7 goals this season, 3 of them penalties. But along with Kerry Dixon, he provides a strike force that's got pace and power, and they will hope again today penetration. Joe McLaughlin stabbing it forward, the new Chelsea captain. He's succeeded Colin Pates. And John Cornwell getting in an early challenge on Pat Nevin. Here's David McCreary, but it only goes as far as Nevin. A lot for Chelsea comes through midfield and Mickey Hazard. Pinion was a little slow to react then, but Steve Clarke could only run the ball out of play for a goal kick. He's become a Scottish international this season, Steve Clarke, but still making his way in the game at this level is 19-year-old Brian Tinian for Newcastle, only his 5th First Division game. Mirandinha couldn't lift the ball past Darren Wood, who filled in well because both McLaughlin and Bodley were wrong-footed for a moment. And then some order brought to the proceedings by Mickey Hazard. Wood. Here's Tinian, very much a left-sided player. Paul Gascoigne, the latest off the conveyor belt of home-produced talent, really, for Newcastle, has made an impact for the England under-21 side. Anderson. Here's Gascoigne. Well read by Hazard. And you sense that the two number 8s might well be important in how this game pans out. Goddard. Hazard getting a foot in again. Donald showing good purpose for Newcastle. Goddard. Mirandini will chase. And there was a stoppage there, as though the whistle had been blown, but in fact, if there was a whistle, it wasn't from the referee. And both Mirandini and Bodley hesitated for a moment. John Anderson. Gascoigne has made a run through the middle behind Goddard. McDonald. Gascoigne. And the attempt at the one-touch passing didn't quite come off for Newcastle. Hazard. Nevin. Here's Clark, who does look a very promising defender, who can launch counter-attacks for Chelsea. Jury. Dixon's got to get it down for a supporting player. It's Clive Wilson. And it very nearly flew in off Nevin. He would have known very little about it had it been his goal. Clive Wilson was played in by Kerry Dixon's unselfish header, and then it bobbled up and hit Nevin and went wide. Tinian having to use his weaker foot and only driving it against Wilson. And Clive Wilson in quickly again, and it was a shrewd piece of defending by Anderson. But Chelsea so much quicker to the ball at the moment. It was Bodley who got in. Here's Jury, who can run past players and runs past Jackson. Kelly comes, Roeder off the line, and did it go in from McCreary? It's a goal. It was Jury's burst. Kelly came, maybe a little bit ill-advised. Roeder got back, and I think stopped it before it crossed the line, but then it hit McCreary and went up into the net. 12 minutes gone. Chelsea 1, Newcastle United 0. McCreary. This is Goddard. A thinking man's player, really. Mirandini. Well, he doesn't need a second invitation to shoot. And that was a welcome opening for him after what's been a pretty quiet opening 17 minutes. Neatly constructed by Newcastle and taken first time by the Brazilian. Well, Dorigo was onside, in fact. I think he wasn't sure, but the ball ran away from him. Here's Goddard. It was a lovely ball from Neil McDonald, and I don't think Newcastle would expect to get many chances as good as that one. already a goal down. And Paul Goddard had contributed a lot to the opportunity by his work off the ball. But Nijveski, Steady Eddie they call him here, protected Chelsea's lead. Here's Mirandinha, and it's off target, but suddenly, in a little spurt over the last 2 minutes, Mirandinha twice and Goddard have been able to shoot at the Chelsea goal. Maybe Chelsea guilty, having gone in front and looking so much the superior of the two sides, maybe they're guilty of just a lapse in concentration. Well, Gordon Jury's strong running paving the way for Chelsea's goal, and I'm sure it will be appreciated by the man in the middle of the picture there. Not a bad runner himself, Chelsea fan Sebastian Coe. Bodley into the back of Mirandinha. Newcastle still had the ball. They might get it back again now. Jackson's header. Cornwell. Well, Glenn Roeder played an FA Cup semi-final on this ground in his Orient days, 9 years ago now. And that wasn't a very happy experience for his side that day. Been too happy for the Newcastle captain here, and Dixon has added to the unhappiness. 2-0. All's well at Stamford Bridge with Kerry Dixon at the moment. It's his 6th goal of the season. There weren't so many smiles over the last campaign when he totalled only 12. He's halfway to equaling that already. We've only had just over a month of football in the 87-88 campaign. Out jumping Gary Kelly. And once the goalkeeper had failed to get there, the ball was always going to end up in the back of the net. In the 26th minute. Reaction there from Gascoigne, who kicked out while he was lying on the ground. He felt he'd been caught by Darren Wood, and he probably had been. "15 minutes remaining of what has been a most lively first half. Anderson is onside. Nijveski is committed. Mirandinha, he wants to score himself, but he's given it to Goddard, and it's a goal. And who says Mirandinha doesn't pass? Because he waited and he waited, and the travelling fans from the northeast see Paul Goddard make up for the miss at 1-0. He's pulled it back to 2-1. And now Mirandinha, in what little of the language he has picked up, is telling his teammates how to cope with the comeback that he's helped to start, or he hopes he's helped to start. But Chelsea undoubtedly were caught square and surprised by John Anderson, who showed great perception for the opening. He didn't really do a great deal with the ball. Nijveski came out and clattered Anderson outside the area, but it went Newcastle's way after that via Mirandinha to Goddard. Six minutes remaining in the first half. Chelsea 2, Newcastle United 1. Cluster of chances as well that haven't been taken. Most entertaining viewing in the sunshine in West London. And here's Mirandinha to make it 2-2, is he? No. But is it a penalty? I think it is. But in the act of shooting, the Brazilian was caught. What a turnaround. Keith Cooper had no doubt, and to be fair, there weren't too many protests from Chelsea. Neil MacDonald. And Nitreski saved it. Goddard, no! Well, MacDonald has scored twice from the penalty spot already this season. Nitreski is the type of goalkeeper who does his homework. And he guessed the right way, but even then, Chelsea were let off by Goddard following up and unable to keep the shot down. Gascoigne from Mirandinha. To his right is MacDonald. Wilson making up the ground. Half-time really can't come too soon for Chelsea. To just capture their thoughts. But here's Nevin. McCreary. Jury gets past two, uses Nevin. Gordon Jury for Chelsea, and Roda wasn't fooled. And the half-time whistle goes at a very appropriate time, really. An attack in keeping with an exhilarating first half. Gordon Jury, with the help of David McCreary, setting Chelsea on their way, it seemed, to a comfortable victory, particularly when Kerry Dixon added a second. But then Paul Goddard got one back for Newcastle, and they should have been level at half-time when Neil MacDonald's penalty had been saved by Eddie Nitreski and Goddard put the rebound over the top. So at half-time, it's Chelsea 2, Newcastle United 1. In under 2 years' time, Chelsea's lease on Stamford Bridge expires. This the ground they've occupied since 1905. They do have the first option to buy it, so the chase is on to raise the money to save the bridge. And as you can see, there's a long, long way to go. All donations gratefully received. After a first half of twists and turns to the drama here, one wonders what the second half will bring. Last season, Newcastle United did do the double over Chelsea. They won here 3-1 last November, at a time when Chelsea were making the headlines for the wrong kind of reasons. Still be kicking themselves for missing that penalty, which would have enabled them to start the second half on level terms. So it's a difficult time for Willie McFall, the Newcastle manager, but he's got a lot of friends in the game, and he might need some of them over the next few months. Cornwell chasing. Gascoigne. MacDonald goes outside him, and Gascoigne uses him in the end. He wanted, I think, Dorigo to be sufficiently distracted, but he wasn't. It's always said about Mickey Hazard, does he last the distance? Chelsea will need him to, the way this contest has closed up. Dixon. Here's Dorigo. Hazard. Jury moved sharply. Roda went with him, in fact, and allowed him to stay onside. It's Jury to Dixon. And McCreary yet again. An important tackle. No foul. In fact, it was a poor ball by Mirandinha infield. A bit of shoulder shrugging going on from the Brazilian at the moment. Clark. Oh, and Wood was rather like a policeman on point duty. He was standing his ground, directing the traffic, but he wasn't going to move to the ball. Gascoigne was fouled. Roda's come forward. McDonald with the free kick. Cornwell trying to add a bit of height in there as well. Nevin. Hazard. Jury's peeled away to the left. Dixon to the right. Against McCreary. Who's served his side well by holding Dixon up. Nevin. But now the cross is whipped in. Jury. And again, Kelly blocked it with his feet. It was a naughty ball in from Nevin. It made the goalkeeper think about coming to get it, and then he realised he couldn't, and he was a little bit lucky when it dropped for Jury, but Jury couldn't lift it over Gary Kelly. And now it's McDonald flattening Hazard. The temperature of the game is beginning to rise, although the quality of the football, in all honesty, has just fallen away a little. Well, Mickey Hazard could answer some of his critics in the time that remains, those who say that he fades with 20 minutes to go. Wilson. Nevin. Wood. For Nevin. They've got to be careful with their tackling here, have Newcastle. The nearest of ill-judged contact there, and it would have been a penalty. Mirandinha, done with fine technique. McDonald, there's a man over this side of Mirandinha. It's Roda, but he had handled. We're all looking forward to the first interview that he gives in English. Nevin. Away from Cornwell. Kelly has lost it. Here's Jury, who picks his spot and can't find it because Anderson headed off the line. It looked as though the moment had arrived for Chelsea to end their anxieties, courtesy of Jury, who sidestepped Kelly and then drove for goal, but drove straight to the head of Anderson. And here's Goddard. McDonald. And Chelsea aren't home yet. And Anderson, the saviour on the line, looks to contribute now in the quest for an equaliser. So Gordon Jury seemed to have done everything right. till it came to the direction of his shot. Dixon was too quick for Jackson, but not quite subtle enough. McDonald. Here's Dorigo. Well, Kelly was committed for it. In fact, it was unnecessary commitment. But Dorigo's so quick, if the ball is given away, as it was by McDonald around the halfway line, he's so quick to see the opportunity to get his team going. And we're down to the last 15 minutes. Nevin. He was lifted by Nevin over the legs of the diving Tinian. Well, in fact, it's Tinian who did handle to give away the free kick. He suddenly slipped to the ground. Delayed reaction. Here's McLaughlin. And Wood, oh, that's a super save. Outstanding reflexes. And Darren Wood must have thought then that his second goal for Chelsea was on its way, with Newcastle United again on the receiving end. But somehow Kelly thrust up an arm when he was in mid-air, and it's a corner. McLaughlin. Wilson came in with his studs up. It's a double substitution for Newcastle United. McDonald and Cornwell, the players, going off. Darren Jackson on the right of the two. Kenny Wharton running closer to the camera. The two substitutes for Willie McFall. And they come on with 9 minutes remaining. And here's Darren Jackson. Losing out to Wilson. Hazard. Peter Jackson. Gascoigne. Here's Goddard. No way through the centre, but I think it was the style of the tackle of the two-footed variety. Newcastle are attacking the goal behind which their travelling fans are watching with great hope that there might be something yet from this trip. Here comes Mirandinha. Darren Jackson, Goddard, that's a great save, and it's in from Wharton. Maybe his first touch. So they do have something to shout about, and the missed penalty can be forgotten. Kenny Wharton didn't hit it very hard, but it didn't need too much after Mirandinha's free kick. Not the direct shot that Nijveski might have expected. Then he saved well from Goddard, but it ran for Newcastle and for Kenny Wharton. 7 minutes left. Wilson. Dorigo. Darren Wood. Hazard. Dorigo. Gascoigne has got Goddard breaking to his right, Mirandinha to his left. Here's Goddard for Gascoigne. He's left it for Mirandinha. Newcastle's come. Oh! Now, the referee might have had to think about giving a penalty after the first sidestep of the defenders by Mirandinha. But in the time he was thinking, Mirandinha was quick enough to get his shot in. And the winner was there for the taking. Maybe in the end few will quibble with the result. And Newcastle United did come here under Willie McFall short of points, but they're certainly not short of spirit. The two managers shake hands. The Newcastle fans put their hands together to celebrate the comeback, to get a draw, with Kenny Wharton equalising 7 minutes from time, just after he'd come on in a double substitution. Newcastle could even afford to miss a penalty. Goddard, the scorer of their other goal, the McCreary own goal, and Kerry Dixon for Chelsea, who went out off the blocks as though they were certain to win. But it finished Chelsea 2, Newcastle United 2.
So Chelsea, I've no doubt, will regard that as a point tossed away. And as a furious manager John Hollins said, we should have won comfortably. We had enough chances in the second half to bury them, and in the end we could have lost it. Well, we've had some action there that Mr. Hollins certainly didn't like, but I think it'll be to the liking of Paul Lavelle, writing from Strathaven Park, Harare in Zimbabwe, who's a Newcastle United fan. But he says we rarely show a full Newcastle game. I have to say, though, we've had a couple in the past 3 weeks. The Liverpool avalanche that fell upon the Magpies at St James's Park, and now this game. Let's hope we can go one better soon and get a winner for Paul. As we come to the league tables, we also satisfy Harry Alday, writing to me from Australia, who's an Oxford United fan, who says that with Oxford in mid-table, it gets a little bit frustrating only to be shown the tops and bottoms of the table. Well, here we go then. This is the complete list of the First Division table of the Barclays League this weekend. Starting with Queen's Park Rangers at the top. They won at Wimbledon. Liverpool cracked 4 past Portsmouth, and Spurs beat Sheffield Wednesday. Arsenal won at Charlton, and Manchester United drew at Luton. Everton, they hit 4 at Southampton. Then we have Oxford and Wimbledon comfortably in the mid-table position. Derby County and Portsmouth also. And then we come to the sides with just a few worries this early in the season. Among them Newcastle, West Ham, Norwich City, who did so well last season, Sheffield Wednesday, and then at the very bottom, Charlton Athletic, 4 points only out of a possible 27. And as we continue with our letters, here's one from Samantha Hampson from New Lynn, Auckland in New Zealand. Her parents were born and raised in Liverpool, and she tells me she's a devoted Liverpool fan. Even her notepaper, as you can see, is in Liverpool red. And Samantha tells me her favourite player is Kenny Dalglish. Of course, he rarely plays these days. But we thought that Samantha and all Liverpool fans might like an introduction to their new scoring star from Oxford United, John Aldridge. Here he is in action, first of all, for Oxford against Luton Town last season.
Ray Houghton, foul on Gary Briggs, and the referee playing a good advantage here, and it might be a very good one for Oxford. As Seeley is beaten by Houghton, the ball comes to Aldridge! MacDonald. Whitehurst, good play there by MacDonald. And the shot on the turn, and another one by Aldridge. More than anxious to hold on to a 3-2 lead. Coming to the last seconds of the game, Kevin Brock. Some great work there on the byline. A lovely little chip by him, and nodded in by Aldridge to complete his hat-trick.
But now John Aldridge is at Liverpool as a replacement for Ian Rush. Martin Tyler reports.
The full house notices are out at Anfield. Such has been the style of Kenny Dalglish's rebuilt side. And even a midweek hat-trick can't guarantee all the tickets John Aldridge needs for today's game against Portsmouth. But whatever public adulation there is, they make sure there are no swollen heads at Liverpool. About time, wrote Mark Lawrenson on the Aldridge hat-trick souvenir. If only you were a good player, added Steve McMahon. But you can be sure that all his teammates appreciate Aldridge's remarkable goal-a-game record in each of his First Division starts. Liverpool have never lost when Aldridge has scored, a statistic that for so long applied to Rush. But are those comparisons a problem?
No, not really. He was 1 in a million, you know. You won't get a better striker than him around for a long time. And I didn't expect myself to go and do anything what Ian's done. Having said that, I'm going to get a lot of chances, as Ian did, and I'm going to score goals, but I don't like to, you know, be compared with him at all, because he's a much better player than I am.
It's a shame you look a bit like him, really, isn't it? That adds to the comparison.
Well, that's true. A lot of people have said that in the past, like, yeah.
Unlike Rush, Aldridge takes the Liverpool penalties, 5 already, and with John Barnes around, more to come. It's adding up to a fairy tale for the Scouser, who's come back home to Anfield, where he used to be a fan.
John Aldridge, a fan who looks as though he might become a Liverpool star. And sticking with Merseyside, Felix Young writes to me from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. He's an Everton fan and wants to know what's happened to their former star striker Bob Latchford, of England fame as well, of course. Well, Bob's out of the big time right now, and he's helping his wife in Wales with a baby goods business and still playing part-time pro football with Merthyr Tydfil. Sadly, an injury kept him out of Merthyr's European Cup Winners' Cup matches against Atalanta of Italy recently. Merthyr lost them narrowly. But how different it might have been with Bob Latchford's scoring ability, here shown in a 1977 match for Everton against Coventry at Goodison Park. Big Bob, he's in the number 9 shirt.
Thomas takes the free kick himself. Good one. Dobson's header. Lions. Latchford free. And it's a goal. Thomas takes the free kick and there's a goal. Latchford again. Thomas has got it over. They're queuing up at the back post there. And it's gone in off the post. Who's going to claim that? I think Pearson. Off McDonald's head. It's come to King. Pejic, Dobson, Thomas, acres of space for him, 2 men to cross to. Latchford! What a glorious goal!
So Everton and Bob Latchford in sparkling form back there in 1977. More letters for you next week, of course, but before we go on, 2 big transfers this week, both taking Scots back to Scotland. Richard Gough, the Tottenham defender, went to Glasgow Rangers for £1.5 million. Here he is with the Rangers manager Graham Souness. And the West Ham striker Frank McAvenny has joined Celtic for around £750,000. Now we turn to action from the second round of the Little Woods Cup. Remember, these are still played on a 2-leg basis, and now we have the first leg of one of the most appealing ties of the round. Second Division Blackburn Rovers against Liverpool, going so strongly again in the First Division. We're going to pick up the story in the first half. Blackburn are in the blue and white shirts, and our commentator at Ewood Park, the home of Blackburn, Martin Tyler.
Curry, the width on the far side is provided by Gale, who got the run of the ball against Lawrenson, and he'll take some catching Howard Gale. With 2 to aim for with the cross, Rovers read his mind. And Gale has stayed off the pitch, as though he might have damaged a muscle in that break, which was a promising one for Blackburn until Rovers cut out the cross. Benison. But it's been a bad start for Blackburn. They've lost Howard Gale with only 11 minutes gone. And Ian Miller is a replacement very much of the same style of player, wide on the right-hand side. A good servant here. In fact, he's the club captain. And only lost his place through injury. Certainly know they've got to keep an eye on Simon Garner. He was a scorer the last time the two teams met competitively in the FA Cup back in 1983. Blackburn led with a Garner goal, but were beaten 2-1. Here's Barker. Sellers. It was very well struck on the half turn by Scott Sellers, dropping awkwardly onto the left foot. He pivoted well, and it didn't quite dip quickly enough for the former Leeds midfield player. Curry. McMahon has stayed down. Important interception by Spackman, and a second time. But McMahon in some pain. Feet now. And a bash Liverpool drive on. They can't get Aldridge in. It was an attempted tackle with Sean Curry that the injury occurred. Garner. Curry. Maybe the shot on for Simon Garner. And a second time. The first block was from Lawrenson, the second from Spackman. Blackburn still with their tails up until Grobbelaar makes it look easy from Miller's cross. His judgment from Mayle, that's Beardsley, and Geno pours it out and away from Aldridge, who then push Sully down, and it's a free kick to Blackburn. Peter Beardsley, who's a great facts and figures man, is well aware that he hasn't scored a goal in this competition. You can sense perhaps an extra edge in his approach to goal tonight. That was a tremendous effort taken early on the volley. Barnes is lurking on the far side. Liverpool quite entitled to look for him. Very much in the Liverpool make-up to play their corners short, but Blackburn have tried to compensate for this by taking two players out to defend against it and making Barnes take the orthodox outswinger, but Nicol almost turned that into a goal. Well, it's another corner. Here's Nicol, 1-0. It's a goal this time. And this footballer of many parts shows his eye for an opening yet again. It's his 7th of the season. Beautifully taken on the half volley. It's sped past Geno. Curry. There's Miller. And that's Sellers! Liverpool were caught on their blind side by Scott Sellers arriving on the scene late, but to devastating effect for the second division side. Caught out Barry Venison, and the header sped past Grobbelaar. Ian Miller showing what a good crosser of the ball he can be. And Sellers stooped in. Whelan. Both sides have shown in this match that in the modern game it's sometimes easier to score coming from midfield when you face the goal. taken right from Geno's grasp by Chris Price. Presumably Geno didn't call. Blackburn with a let-off then. It seemed a quite straightforward catch. Geno went for it, and there was Price guiding it away. A little bit lucky that it fell Aldridge's way. Whelan. McMahon. Now Nicol. It's been a match full of shots on target, and another one from Beardsley was, if anything, a little under-hit. He's never been what the professionals call a bread-and-butter finisher, Peter Beardsley. Often his goals have been spectacular. And that was a genuine striker's chance then. The sort of opportunity you feel Aldridge would have taken. Barnes. Lawrence is offside. And Peter Beardsley is about to learn that reputation counts for little when you play for Liverpool. A missed chance, and it ends in Beardsley being substituted with 15 minutes remaining to give Paul Walsh a run. Well, that's the secret of Liverpool's success, that everybody has to play for their place. And Peter Beardsley, with only one goal so far this season, maybe getting a little jolt there to his pride. Hansen. Held up Paul Barnes in lush grass at Ewood Park. The surface really to encourage players like Barnes. He can hit them with both feet. And there was extravagant curl on that. Not far away. Whelan. Oh, and Sully's made a mistake. This is Aldridge's chance. And John Aldridge doesn't continue his run of 8 goals in 8 starts for Liverpool. He'll curse this moment after Chris Sully miskicked. Whelan. McMahon in the holding position in midfield. There's such a lovely balance to Liverpool's football. Barnes with the cross, and Geno was backpedaling and not too confident. But David Mayle has thrown himself at everything. Barnes with the flick. Oh, and Aldridge again. All good things must end, and it's not really turning out to be John Aldridge's night in front of goal. But you never count against him until the final whistle is gone. Kenny Dalglish played in all 6 of Liverpool's finals in this competition. 4 won and 2 lost, including the one against Arsenal. Lawrenson has put them in trouble here. Simon Garner against Grobbelaar. Grobbelaar wins. And that would have written a headline or two in the morning papers. First of all with a lapse from Lawrenson. And Garner went for power. But Grobbelaar guessed the right way.
So still a bit to play for in that second leg at Anfield, with the first leg finishing there in a 1-1 draw. And we'll bring you right up to date with the results, and we'll have some more action from the Littlewoods Cup on Big League Soccer next week. That's it for this week, though, as we consider that dramatic fight back by Newcastle United at Chelsea this weekend. 2 down and a missed penalty thrown in for good measure, but 2 goals as well that helped to take a point back to the northeast, and a desperate miss right at the finish that might have made it 3. I look forward very much to being with you again next week on Big League Soccer.
Gascoigne has got Goddard breaking to his right, Mirandinha to his left. Here's Goddard for Gascoigne. He's left it for Mirandinha. Nitveski's come. Oh!